November 21st, 1985. Washington, D.C., 4:47 p.m. A sedan tears down Embassy Row. Inside, Jonathan Pollard, 31 years old, soaked in sweat, his wife gripping his arm so hard her nails break skin. "They're behind us," she whispers. Jonathan doesn't look back. He doesn't need to. 3 black SUVs. FBI. The Israeli embassy appears ahead. White walls, Star of David flapping in the wind. Safety. Sanctuary. Home. He slams the brakes. Jumps out. Runs. Open the gate. A security guard appears behind the bars. Israeli. Mid-30s. He recognizes Jonathan. They've met before. Jonathan sees it in his eyes. Please. Please. They're coming for me. You know who I am." The guard's face hardens. He steps back. The gate stays closed. No. I did everything you asked." And screams. FBI agents surround them. Guns drawn. An agent grabs Jonathan's collar, slams him against the wet pavement. Inside the embassy, behind a second-floor window, 3 men in suits. Watching. Stone-faced. One turns away. Jonathan Pollard realizes something in that moment. Face down in a puddle outside the gates of the nation he betrayed America for. They were never going to save him. That's the moment everything fell apart. But here's what'll keep you up at night. Jonathan Pollard knew this could happen. He had 18 months to stop. 18 months of warnings, close calls, sleepless nights. He didn't stop. Why? Let me take you back. Jonathan Pollard works as an intelligence analyst for the U.S. Navy. Sound impressive, right? It wasn't. He's a mid-level civilian employee. GS, 12 pay grade, $30,000 a year. He processes reports, files paperwork. He's a cog. But Jonathan doesn't see himself as a cog. In his mind, he's Jason Bourne. See, Jonathan tried to join the CIA in the 70s. Rejected. Psychological concerns. He tried Mossad, Israeli intelligence. Rejected. Unstable. Do not recruit. The one thing Jonathan Pollard wanted more than anything was to matter. To be special. To be the hero in his own story. And then, June 1984, he gets a phone call. "Mr. Pollard? My name is Aviam Sella. I'm with the Israeli government. I wonder if we might meet for coffee." Jonathan's heart stops. Israeli government. Finally, recognition. They meet at a cafe in Georgetown. Aviam Sella walks in, and Jonathan can't believe his eyes. This isn't some desk jockey. Sella's a legend, Air Force colonel, decorated fighter pilot, national hero in Israel, and he's sitting across from Jonathan. "We have a problem," Sella says, leaning in. "Syria, Iraq, they're planning something. Something catastrophic. We need help. Intelligence the Americans have, but won't share with us." He pauses. "We need someone who understands what's at stake. Someone who cares about Israel's survival." Jonathan feels it. That electric jolt of purpose. "What do you need?" Sella slides a list across the table. Specific document names. Code words. Satellite imagery classifications. "Can you access these?" Jonathan doesn't hesitate. "Yes." And just like that, Jonathan Pollard became a spy. Not for money. Not yet. For significance. He finally mattered. But here's the thing about mattering. When you steal 800 classified documents, when you compromise America's most sensitive intelligence systems, when you put lives at risk for a pat on the back, you don't get to choose how the story ends. Within 18 months, Jonathan Pollard would become the most damaging spy in modern U.S. history. And the cruelest part? He thought he was the hero. October 1985. Friday evening. 7:23 p.m. Jonathan Pollard's apartment in Washington, D.C. looks like a bomb went off in a file room. Documents everywhere. Stacked on a coffee table. Scattered across the floor. Spilling out of briefcases. Top secret. Code word. Eyes only. Ends on her knees. Stuffing papers into a brown leather suitcase. Her hands move fast. She's done this before. 50 times before, actually. But tonight's different. Jonathan's pacing. Chain smoking. His hands won't stop shaking. "Jay, we need to go," and says, not looking up. "They're expecting us at 8. I know. He stares at the pile of documents in front of him. 10 thick volumes, navy blue covers, gold lettering, RASM, radio, signal notations. It's the entire U.S. global surveillance network. Every listening post, every satellite, every frequency America uses to spy on the world. In the wrong hands, it could cripple U.S. intelligence for a generation. Jonathan picks up volume 1. It's heavy. He hesitates and looks up. What's wrong? This is different. The other stuff, troop movements, satellite photos of Syrian bases, that's helping Israel defend itself. But this, Jonathan, if the Soviets get this, they won't. You're giving it to Israel, our ally. Remember? He nods, but his hands are still shaking. He puts the volume in the suitcase, then another, then all 10, and closes the case, locks it, stands up. Let's go. They don't talk on the drive over. Jonathan's mind is racing. He's thinking about the first time he did this. June 1984. One document, a report on Syrian air defenses. It felt like righteousness, like he was fixing a broken system. Aviam Sella had smiled. You're saving lives, Jonathan. Israeli pilots who won't get shot down because of what you're giving us. That felt good. Then Sella handed him an envelope. $2,500 bills. We take care of our friends. That felt even better. Now, 18 months later, it's routine. Every Friday, documents out, cash in. Sometimes $5,500. Sometimes $8,000. Plus the trips, Paris, Tel Aviv, Venice. 5-star hotels. Expensive dinners. Ends wearing a diamond ring now. Costs more than Jonathan makes in 6 months. His co-workers noticed. Hey Pollard, how does a GS-12 afford a ring like that? Anniversary gift. Saved up. They didn't believe him. You could see it in their eyes. And then there was Kurt, his colleague, his friend. Kurt pulled him aside 2 weeks ago. Jay, are you in trouble? You can talk to me. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Kurt didn't push. But Jonathan saw him talking to their supervisor later that day. That's when the fear started. They arrive at the apartment. 3rd floor. Georgetown. Nondescript building. Jonathan knocks 3 times. Pauses. Twice more. The door opens. New handler. Not Sella. He disappeared months ago. Suddenly reassigned back to Israel. This guy's different. Cold. Professional. Scared. His name's Yosef. That's all Jonathan knows. You're late. Yosef says, no warmth in his voice. Jonathan hands over the suitcase. Yosef opens it. His eyes go wide. This is Razin. Yeah. All of it. All 10 volumes. Yosef's hands tremble as he flips through the pages. Do you understand what this is worth? Jonathan waits for praise, for gratitude. Instead, Yosef looks up, and there's something in his eyes Jonathan's never seen before. Fear. They're asking questions about you, aren't they? At work. Jonathan's stomach drops. How did you? Because we're hearing things. Inquiries. The Naval Investigative Service opened a file on you in June. What? You didn't know? Jonathan feels the room spin. No. Nobody's said anything. Yosef closes the suitcase. We need to be careful. Very careful. Limit contact for a while. For how long? I don't know. Yosef hands him an envelope. Thinner than usual. Jonathan opens it. $1,500. That's it. Be grateful you're getting anything. This, Yosef taps the suitcase. Just made you the most valuable asset we have. And the most dangerous. He walks Jonathan to the door. If anything happens, if they come for you, you call this number. Memorize it. Don't write it down. He hands Jonathan a card with a phone number. You call, we get you to the embassy. We'll protect you. You have my word. Jonathan memorizes the number. Burns the card in his ashtray when he gets home. And's already in bed. How much, she asks. $1,500. That's it. Yeah. She doesn't say anything. Just turns off the light. Jonathan lies there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. He thinks about Yosef's face. That fear. He thinks about Kurt's questions. He thinks about the file. NIS. June. For months they've been watching. He should stop. Right now. Tonight. Walk away. But then he thinks about the money. The trips. The way Sella looked at him like he mattered. He can't go back to being nobody. So he closes his eyes and tells himself what he's been telling himself for 18 months. I'm doing the right thing. I'm helping Israel. I'm making a difference. But deep down, in a place he won't admit exists, Jonathan Pollard knows the truth. He's not doing this for Israel. He's not even doing it for the money anymore. He's doing it because stopping would mean admitting he was wrong. And Jonathan Pollard has never been good at admitting he's wrong. 3 weeks later, the phone rings and picks up. Jay, it's for you. He takes the phone. Mr. Pollard, this is the Naval Investigative Service. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Can you come on Monday morning? The walls close in. It's over. November 21st, 1985, 2:17 p.m. Jonathan sits in his cubicle at the Naval Intelligence Office, staring at his computer screen. He's not reading anything. Can't focus. His brain's screaming one word over and over. Run. The NIS interview was 3 days ago. Monday morning. 2 agents. Small windowless room. They smiled, offered coffee, asked casual questions. Just routine security review, Mr. Pollard. Nothing to worry about. But Jonathan knows. He saw the file on the desk. Thick. His name on the tab. They asked about his finances. The ring. The trips. Doing pretty well for yourself, aren't you? He lied. Family money. Inheritance. They smiled again. Didn't believe him. We'll be in touch. That was Monday. Now it's Friday. And they haven't called back. That's worse. When they go quiet, it means they're building a case. His phone rings. Internal line. Pollard, can you come up to the 3rd floor? Commander wants to see you. His heart stops. Yeah, be right there. He hangs up. Stands. His legs feel like water. Ends at home. He should call her. Warn her. But warn her about what? He doesn't know if this is it. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe he's paranoid. He walks to the elevator. Presses 3. The doors open. 2 men in suits standing there. Not Navy. FBI. Jonathan Pollard? Yes. We need you to come with us. No handcuffs. Not yet. But everyone on the floor is watching. They take him to a different building. FBI headquarters. 4th floor. Interview room. 1 table. 3 chairs. No windows. They sit him down. Coffee. No. What's this about? The older agent, 50s, gray hair, looks like somebody's dad, sits across from him. Jonathan, we know. 3 words. That's all it takes. Jonathan's chest tightens. Know what? We know you've been passing classified information to Israeli intelligence. We know about Aviam Sela. We know about the apartment in Georgetown. We know about the money. The room tilts. I want a lawyer. You can have one. But before you do, I want to show you something. He slides a photograph across the table. It's a satellite. American reconnaissance satellite. KH-11. Jonathan recognizes it immediately. He's the one who provided the technical specifications to Israel. This satellite cost the American taxpayer $800 million. It's how he monitors Soviet missile sites, troop movements, nuclear facilities. Another photo. This one's a document. Jonathan's handwriting in the margin. You gave Israel the operating manual, orbital patterns, camera capabilities, encryption methods. Another photo. You gave him Razan, our entire global signals intelligence network. Every frequency, every source, every method. The agent leans forward. Do you know what happens when an ally gets information like this, Jonathan? They share it. They trade it. Israel's got its own problems. Soviet advisors in Syria, weapons deals with Moscow. What do you think they do with intelligence this valuable? Jonathan's voice cracks. They wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Wouldn't trade American secrets to save Israeli lives? You really believe that? Silence. The younger agent speaks up. Between 1985 and 1986, 10 CIA agents operating in the Soviet Union were executed. 10. Some were shot. Some just disappeared. And we couldn't figure out how Moscow knew who they were. He pauses. We thought it was you. We thought you gave Israel the names, and Israel traded them. Jonathan's face goes white. No, I didn't give them agent names. I swear. We know. We found a real leak eventually. Guy named Aldrich Ames. CIA officer. Been working for the Soviets since '85. He's the one who gave up the agents. Relief floods through Jonathan. So, I didn't. But we didn't know that for 6 years, Jonathan. For 6 years, Every intelligence officer in this building thought you got those people killed. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand the damage you did to the relationship between our two countries? Jonathan's hands are shaking. I was helping an ally. Everything I gave them was about their enemies. Syria, Iraq, Soviet capabilities in the Middle East. You were committing espionage against our enemies, against the United States. The older agent stands up, opens a folder, pulls out page after page. 800 documents, Jonathan. Satellite imagery, naval communications, nuclear intelligence, details about U.S. operations in the Middle East that had nothing to do with Israeli security. He drops the stack on the table. Defense Secretary Weinberger wrote a classified memo about you. 46 pages. Want to know what it says? Jonathan doesn't answer. It says you compromised more classified information than any spy in modern American history. It says the damage you did will take decades to repair. It says you belong in prison for the rest of your life. The younger agent leans in. Here's what happens now. You're going to be arrested. You're going to be charged with espionage. And you're going to spend the next 30, 40 years in a federal prison. Unless what? Unless you cooperate. Tell us everything. Every document you passed. Every meeting. Every handler. Every piece of information. And if I do, we recommend leniency. Maybe you do 10 years instead of life. Jonathan looks at the photos spread across the table, at the evidence they've compiled, at the faces of the two men who've just destroyed his life. And he makes a choice. I want to make a deal. They spend the next 6 hours going through everything. Jonathan talks, and talks, and talks. He tells him about Sela, about the Lockham operation, about the money, over $50,000 in 18 months. About the trips, the dinners, the promises. But here's what breaks him. Around hour 4, the older agent asks, "Did you ever have doubts? Ever think maybe you should stop?" Jonathan starts to answer. Stops. His voice cracks. Every single time. Every Friday when I walked into that apartment, I thought, this is it. Last time. I'm done after this. But you didn't stop. No. Why not? And Jonathan Pollard, 31 years old, genius IQ, Navy intelligence analyst, says the quietest, saddest thing. Because they made me feel important. The room goes silent. The CIA rejected me. Mossad rejected me. My whole life, people looked at me like I was nothing. And then Sela, this war hero, sits across from me and says, "We need you. You're saving lives." And I couldn't let that go. The agent closes his folder. Interview's over. Let's process him. They arrest him at 4:32 p.m. Ann's arrested at home 20 minutes later. The news breaks that night. Navy analyst arrested for espionage. Israel's response comes within hours. We have no knowledge of this individual or his activities. Then, 3 days later, a rogue operation. Unauthorized. We've arrested the responsible parties. But never, we're sorry. Never, we'll help him. The plea deal falls apart. Weinberger's memo, the classified one, goes to the judge. Jonathan's lawyers aren't allowed to read it. To this day, parts of it remain classified. The judge reads it. His face hardens. Sentencing day, March 4th, 1987. The courtroom is packed. Journalists, intelligence officials, Israeli diplomats in the back row. Jonathan stands. And beside him, she'll get 5 years. Out in 3. The judge looks at Jonathan. "Mr. Pollard, I've reviewed the classified materials regarding the damage you've caused to the national security of the United States. I've read the recommendations. I've considered your cooperation." Pause. "You are sentenced to life imprisonment." Jonathan's knees buckle. "But we had a deal." "There is no deal. Not for this." Ann's crying. Jonathan's lawyers objecting. The judge isn't listening. Guards take him away. As they lead him out, Jonathan looks back at the Israeli diplomats. They're already leaving. He spends his first night in maximum security at a federal prison in North Carolina. Alone in a cell. No windows. 23-hour lockdown. And all he can think about is that night. November 21st, standing outside the embassy gates in the rain. Pounding on the metal. "I did everything you asked." The gates staying closed. Because here's the truth Jonathan Pollard finally understands. He was never an asset. He was a tool. And when tools break, you throw them away. Israel moves on. America moves on. Jonathan Pollard sits in a cell and waits. 30 years. He'll wait 30 years. And the question that haunts everyone, the CIA, the FBI, Weinberger, the judge, isn't what he stole. It's what they still don't know. Because Jonathan gave them everything. Every document, every meeting, every detail. But intelligence is like a puzzle. And sometimes you don't know which pieces are missing until it's too late. 1987, Federal Correctional Institution. Marion, Illinois. Maximum security. 23 hours a day in a cell. 1 hour in a cage they call a recreation yard. Jonathan Pollard. Inmate 09185-016. Life sentence. No parole. He's 32 years old. The first year is the hardest. Ends in a different prison. Minimum security. She writes him letters at first. Tells him she loves him. Tells him to stay strong. The letters get shorter. Then they stop. 1990 she files for divorce. Jonathan signs the papers through the slot in his cell door. He's alone now, but he's not forgotten. Because in Israel, something strange is happening. Jonathan Pollard is becoming a symbol. Newspapers run stories. Israeli agent abandoned by his country. Politicians give speeches. We have a moral obligation. In 1995, Israel officially grants him citizenship. Prime Minister Rabin appears on television. Jonathan Pollard is one of us. We will not rest until he comes home. Jonathan watches from prison. Allows himself to hope. Rabin's assassinated 6 months later. Netanyahu takes over. Makes Pollard a campaign issue. Bring Jonathan home. 1998, Netanyahu visits Washington. Meets with President Clinton. Jonathan's lawyers get a call. There's movement. Real movement. Clinton's considering clemency. Jonathan can't sleep. Can't eat. This is it. 12 years. He's done 12 years. If Clinton pardons him. CIA Director George Tenet walks into the Oval Office. If you release Pollard, I resign. And I'll make sure every intelligence officer in this country knows why. Clinton backs down. No pardon. Jonathan's lawyer delivers the news through the prison phone. Jonathan doesn't cry. Doesn't scream. Just hangs up. He stops hoping after that. 2000. George W. Bush becomes president. Israel asks again. Bush says no. 2008. Obama wins. Israel asks again. Obama says no. Every president. Same answer. Why? Because in 1994, something happened that changed everything. FBI arrests a CIA officer named Aldrich Ames. Ames had been selling secrets to the Soviets since 1985. He's the one who gave up the 10 agents. The executions. The disappearances. Not Pollard. The CIA had spent 9 years believing Pollard's intelligence reached Moscow. But he had blood on his hands. They were wrong. You'd think they'd apologize. Reduce his sentence. They don't. Because admitting they were wrong would mean admitting they destroyed a man's life over a mistake. So they doubled down. Pollard still caused unprecedented damage. The sentence stands. Jonathan learns about Ames on prison TV. He laughs. Actually laughs. Not because it's funny. Because it's so perfectly, cruelly ironic. He's doing life for something someone else did. And nobody cares. The years blur together. Jonathan's in his 50s now. Hair going gray. Health deteriorating. Diabetes. High blood pressure. He remarries. A woman named Esther. Canadian. They met through letters. She's never seen him outside a prison visiting room. She fights for him. Writes politicians. Organizes campaigns. Nothing works. 2013 Netanyahu makes another push. Offers to release Palestinian prisoners in exchange for Pollard. Secretary of State John Kerry considers it. Intelligence community loses their minds. Absolutely not. He stays in prison. Kerry backs down. But something shifts. Behind closed doors, quiet conversations. He's been in prison 28 years. Life expectancy for someone with his health issues? Maybe another 10 years. Is keeping him locked up really worth the diplomatic cost? 2015, November 20th. Jonathan's called to the warden's office. You're being released on parole. He doesn't believe it. What's the catch? You can't leave the United States. You'll wear an ankle monitor. Weekly check-ins. Any violation, you go back. Jonathan signs without reading. November 20th, 2015. Exactly 30 years after his arrest. He walks out of prison. Esther's waiting. She's 61. He's 61. They've spent their entire marriage separated by prison glass. She holds him. He breaks down. But it's not freedom. Not really. He can't leave the country. Can't go to Israel. Can't speak to the press without permission. He's out of prison, but he's still in a cage. Israel grants him full citizenship. Netanyahu calls it a correction of a historic injustice. Jonathan applies for permission to emigrate. Denied. 2016 denied. 2017 denied. 2018 denied. Every year, same answer. The parole board doesn't even give a reason anymore. Just request denied. Jonathan does interviews. Against the rules, but he doesn't care anymore. I did what I did because I believed I was helping an ally. I was wrong about a lot of things, but I wasn't a traitor. And 30 years? For giving intelligence to a country we give billions of dollars in aid to every year? That's not justice. That's revenge. The intelligence community responds through anonymous leaks. Pollard compromised sources and methods that took decades to rebuild. He has no remorse. He'd do it again. Jonathan fires back. Of course I have remorse. But show me the evidence. Show me the agents I supposedly got killed. You can't. Because Ames did that. Not me. Stalemate. But then, 2020. COVID hits. The world shuts down. And quietly, without fanfare, the U.S. government makes a decision. Jonathan Pollard is no longer a threat. He's 66 years old. In poor health. Under constant surveillance for 5 years. He's complied with every parole condition. And maybe, just maybe, keeping him in America isn't worth the diplomatic headache anymore. December 2020. The ankle monitor comes off. Travel restrictions lifted. He's free. For real this time. December 30th, 2020. Jonathan and Esther board a plane to Tel Aviv. Netanyahu's there to greet them at the airport. Cameras everywhere. Jonathan steps off the plane. Kneels. Kisses the ground. I'm home. Netanyahu smiles for the cameras. Welcome home, Jonathan. You're a hero. Hero. That word again. The same word that started all of this 36 years ago. Jonathan looks around. Sees the cameras. The politicians. The spectacle. And somewhere, deep in his gut, he feels it again. That same hollow recognition he felt in the rain outside the embassy. They're using him. They always were. He's not a hero. He's a prop. But he's too tired to care anymore. He's 70. He's free. He's in Israel. He lost 30 years of his life. His first marriage. His health. His dignity. For what? To matter. To be important. To be the hero in his own story. The cruel joke is, he got what he wanted. He mattered. He was important. He'll be in history books forever. Just not the way he imagined. Today, Jonathan Pollard lives in Jerusalem. He gives occasional interviews. Still insists he was right. Still insists America overreacted. I gave intelligence to an ally, not an enemy. 30 years in prison for that. It's insane. But here's what he never says. Here's what he can't admit, even now. He didn't do it for Israel. He did it for himself. For the way Aviam Sella looked at him across that table in Georgetown. For the feeling of being needed. Special. Important. Everything else, the ideology, the righteousness, the helping an ally, that was the story he told himself to justify it. And American intelligence knows this. That's why they hate him so much. Not because of what he stole, but because of why he stole it. Because Jonathan Pollard is every intelligence officer's nightmare. Not the enemy spy who believes in their cause. The insider who does it for ego. Who risks everything, lives, operations, national security, because they need to feel special. That's unforgivable. You can respect an enemy. You can't respect a narcissist. And that's Jonathan Pollard's real legacy. Not the documents he stole. Not the damage he caused. Not the 30 years in prison. It's the question he forces everyone to ask. How many others are out there? How many people with security clearances, with access to secrets, with the power to destroy everything, are doing it for the same reason Jonathan did? Because someone made them feel important. The answer keeps intelligence officers up at night. Because the truth is, Jonathan Pollard wasn't special. He was just the one who got caught. And somewhere right now, in some government building, some analyst is sitting at their desk. Overlooked, underappreciated, brilliant but ignored. And someone's going to walk up to them. Someone's going to see what no one else sees. Someone's going to say, "We need your help. You're special. You matter." And the whole thing starts again. That's the real horror of the Jonathan Pollard story. Not that it happened, that it never stopped happening. So here's my question for you. 30 years in prison for spying on an ally. Too harsh, or exactly what a traitor deserves. And here's the harder question. If someone made you feel important enough, really truly important, what would you be willing to betray? Think about it. Because Jonathan Pollard did, and it cost him everything. CTA script. The questions that haunt intelligence agencies. 500 words, informative and engaging. So we just walked through one of the most controversial espionage cases in American history. But here's the thing. This story doesn't end with Jonathan Pollard living in Jerusalem. It raises questions that intelligence agencies around the world are still trying to answer. Let me break down the big ones. Question 1. Was the punishment fair? 30 years in prison. For spying on ally. Not Russia. Not China. Israel. A country America gives $3 billion in military aid to every year. Compare that to other cases. Aldrich Ames, the guy who actually got CIA agents killed, he got life, sure. But Robert Hanssen, who sold secrets to the Soviets for 20 years. Life. Same as Pollard. But here's where it gets complicated. Some intelligence experts say Pollard's damage was worse because he spied for an ally. Why? Because Israel had access American enemies didn't. They knew our systems, our blind spots. They knew exactly what to ask for. And that Razin manual Pollard handed over? Some analysts believe pieces of that intelligence ended up in Soviet hands through Israeli back-channel deals. Israel denies this. But the question remains, did Jonathan Pollard indirectly help America's greatest enemy? We may never know. Parts of the Weinberger memo are still classified. 38 years later. What are they hiding? Question 2. Why does the CIA still hate him? Pollard's been out of prison for 5 years. He's nearly 70, in poor health, living quietly in Israel. And yet, former intelligence officers still write op-eds demanding he never should have been released. Still insist he's a threat to national security. Why such rage? One theory. It's not about what he stole. It's about what he represents. Jonathan Pollard is proof that the biggest threat to American intelligence isn't some sophisticated foreign spy ring. It's the insider with a fragile ego. The person who feels overlooked, underappreciated, desperate to prove they matter. That's terrifying, because you can't screen for that. You can't predict it. How many Jonathan Pollards are sitting in classified briefings right now? How many are one bad day away from making the same choice? Question 3. Did Israel betray him or protect itself? November 21st, 1985. Those embassy gates closing. That image haunts this entire story. Israel says it was policy. They don't provide sanctuary to foreign nationals. Can't risk a diplomatic incident. But Pollard was already working for them. They took his intelligence for 18 months. Paid him. Gave him promises. And when he needed them most, they watched through the window and did nothing. Fast forward to 2020. Netanyahu greets him at the airport. Calls him a hero. So which is it? Hero or disposable asset? Or maybe both. Maybe that's the uncomfortable truth about intelligence work. You're valuable until you're not. You're a hero when it's politically convenient. Question 4. What would you do? Here's the one I want you to think about. Imagine you're overlooked at your job. Brilliant, but ignored. You know you're capable of more, but nobody sees it. Then someone approaches you. Someone important. They tell you you're special. That you have skills others don't. That you can make a real difference. And all you have to do is share some information. Nothing that hurts anyone. Just helping the right people with the right intel. Do you say yes? Be honest. Because that's how it starts. Not with ideology. Not with money. With someone making you feel like you matter. Jonathan Pollard said yes. It cost him 30 years. But thousands of people say yes every year to smaller betrayals. Corporate espionage. Leaked documents. Insider trading. The scale is different. The motivation is the same. So drop a comment. Tell me, was Pollard a traitor who got what he deserved? Or a scapegoat who paid for others' crimes? Should Israel have opened those gates? Or did they make the only choice they could? And here's the big one. In Pollard's position, what would you have done? Because understanding this story isn't about judging one man's choices. It's about understanding the human weakness that makes espionage possible. And that's a question we all need to answer.